what Kansas City did. If the RailCats are able to win one game out of this 3-game series, your goal has been accomplished. If you're able to win 2 out of 3, you've exceeded the goal. 3 out of 3 are going to turn eyes. Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of the RailCats Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savetic, and today we are going to be talking about Series 2 preview against the Kansas City Monarchs coming up. Kansas City finished first in the West with a 65-35 record, and then they made it to the second round of the playoffs. I ultimately end up losing. That's not what I want. I want it to show me what I want. It's not giving me what I want. That's awesome. They made it and lost to there we go, to Fargo-Moorhead, I believe, in the two game final. It was a 3-game. They won the first game and then lost the 2 after that. They beat Lincoln to move on to Fargo. Was it what it looks like here? Ultimately losing to Fargo. Yeah, they played Lincoln. Yeah, I don't know how they have this all lined up, but they played Fargo. Fargo ultimately, that we know, went on to win the Miles Wolf Cup on that aspect. A little bit different team we're looking at. They started 0-3 against Sioux City, and really Sioux City was, I think they made the playoffs last year. Let me see here. I know I'm clicking through all of this while kind of going through it. So we're all going on a little journey trip here as we look at the standings here. So Sioux City did not make the playoffs last year. They went 49-51. So I know this is a bit of a depleted Monarchs roster, I would say. They only returning 5 players from last year, what it looks like. So we look at pitching, Matt Hartman, Jordan Martinson. We got Gio Brusa is back. Then you have Jacob Robson and Alex Valdez, who's inactive. So, really, you're only returning 5 players. Maybe a couple of these look like they're coming out of AAA, AA. I see a Charlotte in here, a Charleston, a Birmingham, Winston-Salem, Indianapolis and Altoon, Lexington, like Lehigh Valley, Tacoma. I've seen a couple here and there, but they just haven't got off to a really good start. Looking at their stats right now, their highest batting average is a 250, and that's coming from Oliveira Baspy, that looks like coming out of college almost. You're not getting any production out of anyone else. The starting pitching really hasn't been phenomenal. Just looking at their schedule, the first game for them got postponed on Friday. It was a doubleheader. They lost 1-10 and nothing to 7, and then the last game was 2-1. So I don't know if they're starting to pick it up, but it's a little bit of depleted rosters, I would say, or maybe just Sioux City's just maybe that much better. But looking at the RailCats portion of this is a good testament tool to use, because yes, did Winnipeg win? Did Winnipeg make it to the postseason last year? Yes. Kansas City was the top dog, and it may be depleted a little bit. I don't know what's going on, if things just aren't clicking for Kansas City. As I was listening to Indie Ball Reports kind of preview, it just seems like they don't have the depth. They have good players, but they don't have the depth. So I'm just curious to see how this is going to roll in. The way the RailCats are right now, rolling their momentum, and the way Kansas City has looked right now, it would be hard for me to say that the RailCats can't win 2 out of 3 in this one. You have an 11 o'clock start, a 6:45 start, and another 11:05 start, which maybe benefits the RailCats in this aspect of being at home kind of deal. Uh, you know, very winnable in this aspect, and you need these wins. You're gonna kind of start out hot, and like I said, you know, can't what the Railroaders were able to do last year was unreal. Starting as bad as they did and still making the postseason. But what I also want to look at here is that I just want the regular season for 2022. Is that the Railroaders started out so bad last year that they ended up just being able to break even. That's the point that I'm trying to kind of get at is there are some exceptions out an entire year, and with having having four people go in a 6-man conference, it's going 500 is going to get you in, and anywhere else that's not going to get you in anywhere except maybe the Atlantic League with how they have the first half of the season, the second half of the season. Like I said, if they were in the Atlantic League, Cleveland would have wouldn't have made the postseason via the first the first part of the season, but the second part of the season they would have probably been one of the best teams. And Cleveland is it's unreal right now what they're able to do. So that's going to be the real testament. I think the East is still pretty well stacked. Chicago looks good, but not fully impressive. King County and Milkmen are kind of the top dogs. So it's going to be interesting to see throughout the year. But just looking at the Kansas City game, if the RailCats are able to pitch, and I want to say that John Sheeks is next, but then after that, I don't know who the fifth guy, if Lamar Rogers is running a 4-man rotation, but I'm just saying right now, with what the rotation looks like, and the Indie Ball report said that the pitching last year is what failed the RailCats, or pitching doesn't look as strong with the RailCats this year. That's just them just looking at the stats and not really looking in depth at the team here. Did the pitching fail the RailCats last year in the bullpen? Yes. Is the bullpen better this year? I would want to say so, but there's still a couple pieces that I'm like, I'm not sure in yet. But I think the strong suit of this team is going to be pitching. Starting pitching is going to be hands down the strength of this team. It's the matter of when the strength isn't working, is the offense and the bullpen being able to help. That was the big issue last year, was that the team wasn't able, in those big games, the big moment games, or the games where the starting pitching quite wasn't there, the bullpen couldn't carry through and the offense wasn't there, or sometimes the pitching was there and the offense wasn't. And we're starting to see a little bit, especially over the past 2 games, having a 10-0 where the pitching was there and you scored 10 runs. The pitching was still there and you scored 8 runs. The first game, pitching, really one bad pitch turned the whole outcome of the game. I think this is still a good test point to see where you're at, because no matter what anyone says, no matter how bad Kansas City started, they are still the top of the top, right? And you have to beat the top of the top to get that high, get that high up, to get that acknowledgement. And I still think people are sleeping on this RailCats team. I really do. There's much improvement, as Chuck pointed out to me, that Sam Abbott's hits, it looks like he's working on hitting opposite field, and that's something that in his game that is always a good thing to adjust to, even though it's seeming like, with the major league talking about banning the shift, it doesn't seem like a lot of teams are shifting as much anyway, since it may come down the pipeline that they're going to cancel shifts anyways. So I don't see it as much or see it as grand, but being able to hit all sides of the field is an improvement on his game, because he was a pull hitter. Get the ball out of the ballpark, use all sorts of different part of the field, you're going to get on base, which I will take. I mean, this team has pop, but it has speed. Just the prime example with Gio Diaz. And if people are just looking strictly at his batting average, going, well, he hasn't gotten a hit yet. He's getting on base. Like, give me a guy that's going to get on base. You can bat a 200 and get on base one time a game, but I will take the guy that's going to bat 150 but get on base 4 times a game and score you 2 runs. You know what I'm saying? Because he may take a walk. He may get hit by a pitch. He may, fielder's choice, that kind of stuff. He's going to give you the speed. He's going to steal bases. He's going to score runs. I'll take that. I'll take that every night, every day, every night on that aspect of it. So I'm really liking, he hasn't gotten a hit yet, and I don't think you're talking about a pioneer league where numbers might be a little inflated because you're in higher altitudes. But I would say more of the power numbers would be inflated, not so much being able to hit the ball. It's a different league. Pioneer League is the league where players get a chance to hit, or a chance at professional baseball. American Association is players that have gotten the chance in affiliated ball and have been moved back and trying to get back to that portion of it, right? And for players that want to be competitive, I still think the 2 leagues to go to are the American Association and the Atlantic League. And I think the Atlantic League, yes, still has a step over the American Association, just because, 1, I think they play more games, and 2, it's on the East Coast. At the bigger market, that the bigger names are out that way. But what I'm trying to get at is I still think, looking at what Kansas City did, if the RailCats are able to win 1 game out of this 3-game series, your goal has been accomplished. If you're able to win 2 out of 3, you've exceeded the goal. 3 out of 3 are going to turn eyes, right? They're going to be like, oh, where'd this come? It's going to either be 1 of 2 things. You're going to turn your eyes and say, wow, this team actually might be really good. Or 2, on the flip side, the league may say, Kansas City's not starting out that well. Depending on that, we'll talk about, really, if Kansas City isn't the benchmark, maybe Lincoln is. If Lincoln's not the benchmark, it's going to be Kane County. That's all I got. So that's going to wrap it up for me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Whatever you got. Enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening when we're watching this, and go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Wrap this one up in green and white.